Alright guys, this is what we got. This is what I'm going to pick up. Yesterday we were working on the accent, we were working on the gradients on this top right corner. So that's done. We're not going to worry about the other stuff anymore. Today we're just going to go and work on the dialogue. You're going to export this into a JPEG. You're going to upload it into Wellsworth Online Design. You're going to bleed it onto your spread. And you're going to request proof. And hopefully I'll print it out. And you'll take a look at what you got. Okay? So let's go. Have that ready to go. Yeah. This is what we're going to pick up. Alright, so according to my my layout here, and I'm going to use, I'll get our model out again. That is under labs, spread examples, and it happens to be this guy here. Alright, so we have here to look at the two columns of text on the right hand side here, on the bottom. And this is what we're going to do next. Make sure you're working on the right layer. I am not working on the accent or perspective or photo layer. I'm actually working on the type layer where the article is going to go. There are two different ways you can work with text in columns in here. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in here so you actually can see. The area in which I want to put my text is here. So I'll start with the type tool. And I will draw a text frame for type. I'll right click on this thing here. Thank you. And I will fill with placeholder text. The placeholder text right now is, I want to select the whole thing, so Control A. And I want to change font this to Times New Roman size 12. That is my font standard size. Okay? You notice that my text frame here is not past the half an inch margin guide to the left of the page, staying half an inch away from the fold, the edge of the paper, and in this case here will be the fold of the spread. So let's take a look here. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to divide this text frame into two columns. And I said this was there are two ways you can do that. I'm going to Control 0 this to zoom out a little bit. I'll make a copy of this text frame out here, leave it for later, and I'll come back to work on this guy here. The first method that I'm going to show you is probably an easier one. With the text frame selected, I'll right click on it, and I'll go to text frame options. Under text frame options, you're going to have the dialog box that allows you on the column group here to increase the number of columns to 2 instead of the default, which is 1. The gutter is really showing you the size, the width of this column in between of this space in between the columns. At this point here is 0.1667. I'm going to crank that up to 1/4 of an inch. Okay, because I want the text to be fairly separate between the two. Yes?
I did the text tool, but there's no box and it's not letting me put any text in.
Alright, so starting over here, I go to the type tool. Make sure you're on the right type layer. On the right layer that you're putting all the text in. Type tool. I'll click and drag a box. It's not letting you click and drag. Fill with placeholder text. The columns is you get from right clicking the text frame, going to text frame options. Under text frame options, you're going to see a column group. And by default, the column number is 1 because there's no columns. You're going to crank that up to 2. The gutter, as I said, was the spacing between the columns, and you want that to be 1/4 of an inch. Okay? And then once that's done, you click OK. I'm changing my font here, Times New Roman. Alright, so the next thing you're going to notice here on my text is that the alignment on the right is not correct, right? I have this jaggedy edge here that I really want to be pretty straight. Okay, so I'm going to actually zoom in on this thing here. Okay, so my text on my model is actually a straight line. So with the text frame selected, you can go to the paragraph panel and you can choose that to justify with last line aligned left. Do not choose the last one, justify all lines, because that stretches everything. You want to be the last line aligned left. Okay, the last line here, aligned left. So once that's done, you're going to notice that some of the paragraphs here, they have a first line indent. So again, on my text frame here, with it selected, on the paragraph panel, I can go to that first line left indent and I can crank it up to a quarter of an inch is usually appropriate. That adds that. So that's pretty good. It's kind of like Word. And then you're going to see this thing here, which is different. Okay, this is something called drop cap. Drop cap is something that you apply to a paragraph. And the number of drop cap lines is the number in which the first letter actually takes in height-wise. So how do I do that here is I need to be inside of that first paragraph in which I'm going to apply drop cap. So get your type tool out and put your insertion point anywhere inside of the first paragraph. The drop cap button is in the paragraph panel on the bottom here, lower left. And it's this little A in the lines here. The default is 0. So you're going to crank it up to 3. And that makes our first letter of the paragraph larger. The problem that we have now is that we had applied the first line indent. So we need to get rid of that, because that, while it works for everybody else, is not supposed to be here. Okay, we have our first line indent on this area here, but not on the first line of the paragraph. So just go back to your paragraph panel and change that back to 0. So now you have a drop cap, which is 3 lines high, and it just looks pretty good at this point. Okay, so let me see, I can zoom out here a little bit. And I can take a look at I press W just to go to the preview to take a look at the thing that I have. I have a problem here. And my problem here is I feel that this text and the caption are a little too close to each other. And I want it to be a little further apart. So I'll just resize my text frame to push this further apart. So I create a bigger gap between the two. I also don't like the fact that my top is too close to the top. So I'm going to resize this text frame to make it a little smaller. And that, folks, just about concludes this lab. Okay, this is what my result is. Okay, so that I showed you guys how to operate line indents and everything. Once that is done, you can save the file save. And then once that is saved, mine's already saved, you go to export, and you're going to export a JPEG out of this thing here. Make sure that the range is pages 2 and 3 because you're working on the spread. Make sure spreads is checked. Make sure quality is maximum. Make sure the resolution is 300 ppi, and then click on export. Once that is done, you can go to where you're exporting the JPEG, and you can verify that it's there. Mine's on the desktop. Hold on, Joe.
Okay.
And mine was called period 6 something. So where's that at? Period 6. I can double click on the picture, and this is my JPEG export. This is what you will use to upload to online design. Okay, so If you have Walsworth Online up, make sure you're logged in there. Make sure you're on the right year for the yearbook, and then you click on Online Design. Make sure your pop-ups are not blocked. A pop-up should come up like this. And once that is done loading, you should be able to upload the image to Walsworth. Just remembering that between the time that you upload the image and the time that it actually becomes available for you to place on a spread, it's about a 30 second, 45 second delay. Okay? So there's a button here on the lower right, upload images, of up arrow. You can click on OK there, click on Browse, go find the JPEG spread that you exported. In my case here is going to be right here. And then you click on Upload. And then you can close this when you're done. On mine, it's not going to work. It's going to give me an error message because I'm using the laptop that is under a block. But you guys, it should be able to work. Go to Page Editor and add that to your spread. And that is it.